Hello, welcome to Secret Zone. Subscribe and turn on notifications for stories you won't forget. Nicholas had always believed that his life was perfect, that the love he shared with his wife was unshakable, and that their marriage, built on years of friendship and affection, was a fortress no one could breach. They had met during their college days, two young souls drawn together by laughter, late-night conversations, and shared dreams of a future full of promise. Over time, their friendship deepened into something more, a gentle, steady flame that grew into love, and eventually, they married, carrying with them the trust and understanding that only years of knowing someone intimately can create. For 6 beautiful years, Nicholas and his wife had built a life together filled with small joyous Sunday mornings, quiet dinners, playful banter, and the warmth of companionship that only true love can bring. Nicholas, a successful businessman, had worked tirelessly to secure their future, while his wife, ambitious yet loyal, thrived in the same firm, sharing in his professional world and his personal life, a partner in every sense of the word. Life seemed flawless until subtle changes began to ripple beneath the surface, almost imperceptible at first. Distracted glance at her phone, a hesitation in her smile, moments when her laughter didn't reach her eyes. Nicholas brushed them aside, telling himself that stress and work could explain anything, that after all, they had faced challenges before and always come through stronger. But one Saturday evening, as he sat in his car, parked a few blocks away, heart pounding in his chest, Nicholas watched something unfold that would shatter the foundation of his certainty. He saw her, the woman he had trusted with every secret, every hope, moving toward a man he barely recognized in public, but would soon discovered was someone from his past, his old classmate turned successful businessman. They spoke quietly, leaned close, and laughed in a way that made Nicholas's stomach twist with a mixture of disbelief and pain. His mind raced. Was it possible? Could the love of his life be hiding this from him? That very night, his thoughts tormented him, recalling every little change he had noticed over the past months, every unexplained absence, every phone call she brushed off. Nicholas realized that what had seemed like small, harmless actions now formed a disturbing pattern, a secret life he had never imagined. And in that moment, as he gripped the steering wheel, palms sweaty, heart hammering, he knew that his life, as he had understood it, was about to change forever. The perfect marriage, the unshakable trust, the love he had cherished so dearly, everything now hung in the balance. And Nicholas had no choice but to uncover the truth, no matter how devastating it might be. Nicholas had always prided himself on knowing his wife, on understanding the smallest of her gestures and expressions. For 6 years of marriage, he could tell when she was happy by the soft hum of her voice, when she was anxious by the quick rhythm of her fingers tapping the table, and when she was lost in thought by the subtle furrow of her brow. Yet lately, things had begun to shift in ways he could not explain. At first, it was small. She would answer phone calls a few moments too late, or glance at her screen and quickly hide it when he approached. Texts would disappear too quickly, or she would excuse herself to the restroom mid-conversation, returning with a forced smile that did not reach her eyes. Nicholas tried to ignore it, told himself it was just stress, the demands of a career that required her full attention. But the unease settled in his chest like a shadow that would not go away. The first sign that something was off had appeared during a casual Friday evening. They were at home, sharing a quiet dinner, and Nicholas noticed her fingers nervously fidgeting with the napkin. When he asked about her day, she spoke vaguely, almost rehearsed, avoiding any detail that might give him a clue. Something in the way she smiled seemed distant, as if part of her mind was elsewhere. He brushed it aside, but that night, he could not sleep. His thoughts circled endlessly, each one returning to the same question. Is it me, or is there someone else? Over the next few weeks, the signs became harder to ignore. She started disappearing for longer periods, claiming meetings or conferences that required travel. Nicholas trusted her, had always trusted her implicitly. Yet a seed of doubt had been planted. He began noticing patterns. The same phone being used at odd hours. Whispers of hushed conversations that stopped when he entered the room. Small inconsistencies in her stories. Nicholas knew he should confront her, should ask the difficult questions, but fear and hope battled within him. The fear that he would uncover a truth too painful to bear, and the hope that it was all just coincidence, that he was imagining it. But deep down, a part of him knew he could not ignore it any longer. One afternoon, Nicholas stayed back at the office while his wife left for what she claimed was a meeting with a client. He could not shake the gnawing feeling, so he decided to follow her discreetly, keeping his distance. As he trailed her car through the city streets, heart pounding in his chest, he realized how many weeks, maybe months, she had been hiding these excursions from him. The nervous energy that coursed through him intensified with every turn, every stop she made. Finally, she arrived at a large, modern building in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood. Nicholas parked his car a few blocks away, heart racing, and watched as she entered the lobby. Within minutes, a man confident, composed, clearly familiar with her appeared, and she greeted him with a warmth that made Nicholas's stomach twist painfully. Their conversation was private, but their body language spoke volumes. The way she leaned in, the subtle smiles, the laughter he could hear even from a distance, all of it suggested a familiarity that cut deeper than he had imagined. Nicholas left the scene that day feeling a cold, sinking despair. He could not confront her, yet could not allow himself to act without evidence. He began quietly observing, documenting every meeting, every suspicious interaction, every gesture that indicated intimacy beyond friendship. The days stretched into weeks, and each discovery, each subtle confirmation of his fears, made his heart heavier. The woman he had trusted with every secret, every hope, was living a life parallel to his own, and he had no idea until now. The man she met was no stranger. Nicholas recognized him, his classmate from college, someone he had once called a friend, now a wealthy businessman. The betrayal stung more sharply than any stranger ever could, as Nicholas pieced together the pattern of her absences and secret meetings. A storm of emotions raged inside him. Anger, sadness, disbelief, and heartbreak collided, making it impossible to think clearly. He spent sleepless nights, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories of their marriage, trying to reconcile the woman who had promised him fidelity with the reality he was discovering. Each memory vacations, dinners, quiet evenings on the couch was tainted with the bitter possibility that the moments he had cherished had been shared, in part, with someone else. Yet Nicholas could not bring himself to confront her immediately. He wanted absolute certainty, evidence that could not be denied, and he needed to understand the full extent of what was happening before he faced the truth. And then came the day that changed everything. Nicholas had been following her discreetly, keeping a careful distance as she drove toward the same upscale residential building she had visited before. He watched as she met the man, observed them laughing, leaning close together in a way that confirmed his worst fears. Nicholas's hands shook, his breath caught, and for a moment he felt hurt. But beneath the shock, a cold clarity emerged. He knew he could no longer ignore what was happening. He had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That night, he returned home in a daze, mind racing, heart heavy, feeling as though the foundation of his entire life had been shaken. He glanced at his wife, sitting casually on the couch, scrolling through her phone, oblivious to the storm that was brewing. The woman who had been the center of his world now held secrets he could not yet fully grasp, and Nicholas realized that the journey he was about to undertake would test him in ways he had never imagined, forcing him to confront betrayal, heartbreak, and the limits of forgiveness. Nicholas spent the following days gathering evidence, photographing meetings discreetly, and documenting everything with meticulous care. Each piece of evidence, each captured moment, added to the growing picture of a life his wife had been leading without him. The man, once a trusted friend, had become a central figure in a web of deception that Nicholas could no longer ignore. The weight of the discovery pressed on him constantly, making every interaction with his wife tense, every casual smile feel like a mask hiding something darker. Nicholas began preparing himself for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that when the truth finally came to light, it would not only challenge the trust he had built, but also force him to make decisions that would forever alter the course of his life. And yet, even in the depths of despair, Nicholas clung to one fragile hope: that love, even when betrayed, could still be preserved, that understanding and truth could guide him through the storm. It was this hope, however faint, that gave him the courage to move forward, to uncover the secrets hidden behind smiles and polite conversation, and to prepare for the night when he would finally face the reality of the woman he had loved and the life she had secretly been living. Nicholas had reached a point where ignoring the truth was no longer possible. Each day, each absent excuse, and each hurried phone call had cemented the idea that something was happening behind his back. Yet even as his mind spiraled with suspicion, He moved carefully, aware that confronting her without proof could destroy everything and leave him questioning his sanity. He started tracking her movements, paying attention to every detail of her routine, the times she left the house, the names she mentioned in passing, the locations she said she needed to visit for work. At first, it felt like paranoia, a creeping anxiety that made his chest tighten. But soon, the puzzle pieces began to fit together, forming a picture far darker than he could have imagined. One rainy afternoon, Nicholas followed her again, keeping his car hidden behind a row of trees near a quiet neighborhood. She drove to a towering building he had never noticed before, one of those modern complexes with sleek glass doors and two for our security. Nicholas parked a block away, heart pounding, as he watched her enter the lobby. Moments later, a man arrived, tall, confident, exuding a presence Nicholas immediately recognized. His former classmate, a successful entrepreneur whose wealth and charm had always impressed him. The sight of the two together, smiling and leaning close, made Nicholas's stomach twist painfully. They walked through the lobby, up the elevator, and disappeared from view, leaving Nicholas sitting in the car, torn between rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. Nicholas knew he needed proof, not just intuition. He began photographing discreetly, recording subtle interactions that confirmed the growing nightmare in his mind. Over the next few weeks, the visits continued, secret meetings at the apartment, long conversations in hushed tones, shared laughter that Nicholas could almost hear through the walls of secrecy. The man was no stranger. He had known him for years. This betrayal cut deeper because it was someone Nicholas had once trusted, someone who had shared in the milestones of his life. The more Nicholas observed, the more details emerged. The apartment they visited was no ordinary rental. It was a fully furnished, luxurious space, decorated with items Nicholas himself had gifted to his wife. Watches, art pieces, and even furniture, purchased during vacations, all reappeared in this secret life. Each discovery was a dagger to his heart, proof not only of deception but of premeditation. Nicholas began documenting everything meticulously. Photographs of the two together, receipts, notes of their schedules, even small items that linked her presence in that apartment to tangible reminders of their shared life. At home, Nicholas tried to act normal, speaking with his wife as if nothing had changed. She remained unaware of his observations, smiling and engaging in conversation, while the truth simmered beneath the surface. But each smile, each casual gesture, now carried a weight, a sense of irony that twisted in his chest. Nicholas realized that the woman he had loved and trusted for years had been living a double life, a parallel existence of secrecy and betrayal. The thought made him question everything: their vacations, the quiet nights together, the laughter they had shared. Was any of it real, or had he merely been a spectator in a carefully orchestrated deception? Then came the night he decided he could wait no longer. Nicholas drove to the apartment, heart hammering, hands sweaty on the steering wheel. He parked outside the building, staring at the sleek facade, trying to calm the storm of emotions raging inside him. As he entered the lobby, the security guard gave him a subtle nod of recognition, as if he had been expecting this moment. The elevator ride up to the 8th floor was silent, each passing floor increasing the tension in Nicholas's chest. Finally, the doors opened onto a hallway that was immaculately clean, soft lighting casting long shadows. Nicholas approached the apartment door, hesitating for just a second before stepping inside, ready to face the reality that had haunted his every thought for weeks. The apartment was a shock. Beautifully furnished, every corner reflecting thought and care, every detail meticulous. Modern furniture, expensive appliances, delicate artwork, and even small personal items Nicholas had gifted her were all there. The realization that these items, these symbols of their shared life, were now part of a secret space filled him with a mix of grief and fury. As he moved deeper into the apartment, he discovered photographs of vacations, mountain trips, parks, and ice cream outings, all with the two of them together, but not with him, with the man he once considered a friend. The betrayal crystallized, cutting sharper than any blade. Nicholas picked up one photo at a time, feeling his world crumble piece by piece, the man's hand resting on her shoulder, their smiles perfectly in sync. Laughter caught mid-moment. It was all real, undeniable. Nicholas realized that this had not been a fleeting affair but a carefully constructed life, parallel to his own, hidden in plain sight. The apartment, the meetings, the shared moments, they had been together for over a year. all while he continued to trust her implicitly. The magnitude of the deception left him breathless, heartbroken, yet strangely composed. Nicholas knew that he now held the power to confront, to demand answers, and to reclaim the truth from the shadows of betrayal. The day of confrontation was unlike any Nicholas had ever experienced. He returned home, carrying the weight of photographs, notes, and evidence that proved the secret life his wife had been leading. For hours, he sat quietly, staring at the stack of images, replaying the moments captured in them, letting the shock sink in fully before taking action. Finally, he called his wife to sit with him in the living room. When she arrived, cheerful and unsuspecting, Nicholas felt a wave of emotion wash over him. His heart ached at the thought of facing her. Yet he knew that silence was no longer an option. With steady hands, he laid out the photographs before her. The first image caught her off guard, a snapshot of the two of them laughing on a beach vacation. Intimate and tender. Her smile faltered. Nicholas watched closely as recognition dawned in her eyes. He spoke softly, but each word carried the weight of betrayal. "Tell me the truth. Who is he? Why is he here? How long has this been going on?" His voice was calm, almost eerily so, but beneath it lay the storm of anguish he had contained for weeks. She froze, her gaze darting between the images and his eyes. The first instinct was denial. She shook her head, trembling, and said, "It's not what you think. There's nothing between us." Nicholas remained silent, letting the photographs speak louder than any argument could. For a moment, she seemed desperate, searching his eyes for a shred of hope that he would believe her. Nicholas could see the panic building as she realized he had captured every meeting, every stolen smile, every intimate moment that betrayed his trust. Tears welled in her eyes as she finally confessed, her voice breaking. "It started without intention, and then we couldn't stop, but I love you. I swear I do." Nicholas shook his head in disbelief. "Love doesn't do this," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Love doesn't lie every day. Love doesn't steal from the person who trusts you most." He paused, giving her a moment to process, then spoke again, firm and unyielding. "You need to leave the room. I need time to think." She moved quietly, understanding the gravity of the moment, leaving Nicholas alone with the evidence, with his thoughts, with the raw pain of betrayal. For 3 days, silence dominated the house. Nicholas retreated into himself, wrestling with the choice between anger and forgiveness, between ending their marriage and attempting to salvage what they had built. His wife returned each day, pleading for understanding, for a chance to explain, for forgiveness. Nicholas remained distant, listening but not responding, observing the sincerity in her voice and the tears that streaked her face. By the 4th day, Nicholas made a decision. He called her to sit with him once more. This time, his voice was steadier, infused with the clarity that came from reflection and deep consideration. "I've made the decision to forgive," he said, pausing to let the words sink in. "But trust is not rebuilt overnight. We have to start again, slowly, carefully. You must earn back every piece of it." She nodded, sobbing quietly, relief and remorse intertwining on her face. Nicholas felt a strange peace, a release from the tension that had gripped him. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but he had reclaimed control over his life, his choices, and the future of their marriage. Forgiveness, Nicholas realized, was not weakness, but strength. In the days and weeks that followed, he and his wife began the painstaking process of rebuilding trust. Small gestures became monumental victories, shared meals without distraction, conversations that were honest and open, even the simple act of acknowledging each other's presence without fear or suspicion. Nicholas observed closely, but not with paranoia. He wanted transparency, accountability, and commitment. Slowly, the wounds of betrayal began to heal, replaced by a cautious but genuine reconnection. They worked together to address the deeper issues that had allowed deception to take root. Nicholas encouraged her to be honest about her feelings, her motivations, and the mistakes she had made. She, in turn, listened to his pain, his anger, and the ways in which trust had been broken. Their dialogue, once casual and routine, now carried weight and intention. They explored their vulnerabilities, shared regrets, and reinforced the bond that had initially drawn them together. Nicholas also reflected on himself, recognizing that vigilance, attention, and awareness were essential in modern relationships. Love alone could not protect against betrayal. Careful observation and understanding of one's environment, friendships, and interactions were equally important. He learned that forgiveness, combined with conscious effort, could restore even the deepest breaches of trust. Months passed. The memories of the secret apartment, the photographs, and the betrayal remained. But they no longer controlled his life. Nicholas and his wife rebuilt their life, choosing transparency, honesty, and shared goals. They celebrated their renewed bond with small gestures, vacations, and moments of intimacy that reinforced their connection. Nicholas found a sense of empowerment not from revenge or punishment, but from reclaiming his life and choosing to forgive. Through this journey, he discovered that trust, once broken, could be rebuilt with patience, accountability, and love. The marriage that had faced the ultimate test emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected than ever. Nicholas learned that in a world full of deceit and temptation, vigilance and awareness were vital, and that love, when combined with courage and forgiveness, could survive even the harshest storms. Nicholas sat on the balcony of their home one quiet evening, the city lights twinkling below like distant stars, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of peace. Sophia was in the living room, quietly reading a book, her presence calm and unassuming, the softness of her movements a reminder of the woman he had fallen in love with years ago. The journey they had taken together had been anything but easy weeks of doubt, sleepless nights, heartbreak, and betrayal. But now, standing on the other side of it, Nicholas understood something profound. Love was not blind, it was aware. Love required vigilance, trust, patience, and, above all, the courage to forgive when the heart is willing. He remembered the first night he had followed Sophia, the shock of seeing her in the arms of someone else, the betrayal that had shattered his world. He thought of the photographs, the apartment, the countless small lies that had accumulated over months, and he realized how fragile trust could be if left unchecked. And yet, he also remembered the moments after the confrontation, when Sophia had cried, begged for forgiveness, and promised transparency. It had taken time, effort, and his own willingness to heal, but now they had emerged stronger than ever, a marriage rebuilt on honesty and conscious commitment. Nicholas called Sophia to the balcony, and she came over, smiling gently. They sat together in silence for a few moments, hands brushing lightly, the quiet understanding between them more powerful than words. "We've been through so much," Nicholas said softly, his voice steady but warm. "And yet, here we are. I know mistakes were made, and trust was broken, but I also know that forgiveness is stronger than betrayal. We've chosen to fight for this marriage, to protect what we have, and to never let it slip through our fingers again." Sophia's eyes glistened with tears, and she nodded, resting her head briefly on his shoulder. "I promise," she whispered, "I'll never give you a reason to doubt me again. I've learned my lesson, and I will spend the rest of my life proving it to you." Nicholas smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and determination in his eyes. He knew the journey ahead would not always be easy, that challenges would come and temptations would appear. But now he had learned the importance of vigilance, of staying aware, of being present in the life he had built with Sophia. And he also knew that love, when nurtured carefully and protected by awareness, could survive even the darkest storms. As the night grew quiet, Nicholas and Sophia sat together, hands intertwined, hearts slowly finding their rhythm again. They no longer lived in shadows or secrets. Their marriage was no longer defined by the past, but by the conscious choice to love, forgive, and protect each other. Nicholas whispered, almost to himself, "From now on, I will always watch over us, not to control, but to cherish, to protect, and to make sure that nothing ever comes between us again." Sophia leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in months, a true, unbroken peace settled between them. The lesson was clear. In a world full of deception, uncertainty, and temptation, love requires attention. Husbands and wives must remain aware of each other's surroundings, the people they interact with, and the temptations that may arise not out of mistrust, but out of care, protection, and commitment. Nicholas and Sophia had survived the ultimate test, and in doing so, had discovered that trust, vigilance, and forgiveness were the pillars that could sustain a marriage against any storm. As Nicholas looked out over the city, he realized that life had given him more than he had lost. He had lost a sense of security, but he had gained clarity. He had faced betrayal, but he had reclaimed control over his own heart. And he had learned that while mistakes could happen, love real, conscious, and protected love was always worth fighting for. Nicholas squeezed Sophia's hand, and she smiled back, the quiet harmony between them a testament to resilience, redemption, and the enduring power of true love. And so, Nicholas and Sophia moved forward together, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. Their past would never be forgotten, but it no longer held power over them. Instead, it had become a lesson, a guide, and a reminder that vigilance, care, and forgiveness could heal even the deepest wounds. Theirs was a marriage renewed, a bond fortified by experience, and a love that would endure as long as they chose to protect it. Thank you for watching Secret Zone.